everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. On today's episode, we're looking at Topaz Studio 2 again. This time we're looking at the Precision Detail filter. It's a little bit different than the Precision Contrast. The Precision Detail filter is more of a, call it a sharpening filter, and it deals with small, medium, and large details of your image. But it's more of a sharpening filter. However, Precision Contrast does give you sharpening effects too, but Precision Detail is more for absolute sharpening images, for really popping out textures and things like that. And I'll show you here. First thing we want to do is go up to, I'm in Photoshop, so we're going to go up to Filter. We're going to come down to Topaz Labs, Topaz Studio. Let's click on Topaz Studio 2. And that will launch Topaz Studio 2. We come up to Add Filter. And we go to Precision Detail. We give it a click. Now notice something when I click on Precision Details here, guys. Notice how my picture got real funky? That should not do that. Now let me click the eyeball here. There's the before and there's the after. This is a problem with the Precision Detail filter on Mac machines, especially like newer computers. This is an iMac with an i9 processor. It's a brand new machine. I just got it like about 2 weeks ago. I had this problem with my original Mac Pro computer, which was about a 10-year-old computer. I had the same issue with it using the latest update, Apple update, which is Mojave. Okay, so I had this issue. My computer was getting old, so I figured, you know what, I'm going to get a new computer. So I got a new computer thinking that would solve my problem. It was about a month ago, I bought an iMac. It had the i5 processor in it. It had this exact same problem. I turned that machine back in. I got it at Adorama.com. I turned it back and upgraded to the i9 processor. So this is a fully spec'd out iMac, all right? And I have the same problem. So this is a known issue. I have a support ticket in with Topaz. So right now, guys, I'm not going to be able to show you how this works in Topaz Studio 2, but I have a workaround because I have the original detail filter from Topaz, which is called Topaz Detail 3, and I'll show you how this filter works. It has the same controls, but let's come up here to Precision Detail, give this a click, and you'll see inside here these controls. Overall small detail, medium detail, large detail, and then you have some lighting controls, midtones, shadows, highlights, black point, and white point. Okay, so right now this filter isn't working. Let me just pull the overall small detail slider up. So Topaz, if you're watching this video, you'll see exactly the problem I'm having. So let me just pull this up. And you can see it gets real funky looking, right? Let me double click overall small details. Now let's go to overall medium details. When I adjust this slider, nothing happens. So it's absolutely broken. It does not work. And the same with the overall large details. All right, so let's get out of Topaz Studio 2. This is the only filter that doesn't work for me in Topaz Studio 2, by the way. So let's click Cancel. We'll go back into Photoshop. Okay, here we are back in Photoshop. Now, what I'm going to do is come up here to Filter, and I'm going down to Topaz Labs, and here's all my Topaz filters. I've been with Topaz for years, probably over 8 or 9 years. And we're going to go to Topaz Detail 3 right here. I'm going to click this and we'll launch Topaz Details 3. This is a pretty old plugin. I'd say it's at least 6 or 7 years old, if not older. But as you can see, I don't have any problems here. That my image has not changed. So I'm going to come up here where it says 25%. I'm going to change this to 50% so we can zoom in a little bit here and kind of just move the image around a little bit, because I'm going to look in this area of the image right here. And I'm going to show you how this filter works. First off, I want to reset it here. Okay, so we have small details. We have medium details, large details, the same as we had in Topaz Studio 2. So everything I show you here will follow suit in Topaz Studio 2. We also have overall, shadow, and highlights. You're going to have these same filters or these same buttons inside of Topaz Studio 2. Overall deals with the overall image, and then you can deal with just shadow tones or highlight tones. Generally, you're going to be sticking around the overall tones. Sometimes you'll go into the shadow and highlights, depending on the image. And the key there is just to experiment with the different sliders. You never know how a filter is going to affect your image until you play with sliders. So that is very important and very critical that you play with sliders in any filter that you're in. All right. So let's go to small details first. Now it's going to deal with smaller details in the image, like in these bricks here, like these little, like the mortar and stuff in the bricks, like little small details. These little small details in these some type of like cactuses or something. I don't know what that is. Anyway, this is not my image, by the way. I got this on unsplash.com just for this tutorial. I wanted something with a lot of detail so I could show you how this works. So let's take the small detail slider and let's just start to drag it to the right. Can you see those details starting to pop? Mainly just like in these, these little cactus or succulents. I'm not sure what they are. And in these, in the mortar areas here. On this, some of the little bits of grain in here. Let me just pull that up higher and you can see it. Okay, and now the boost sliders, the small detail boost sliders, I like to look at this slider as a fine-tuning slider. So once I get the one slider set, for instance, I'm working with small details first, and then I think I got it to a nice little point, and then I'm going to take this boost slider and just move it to the right a little bit, and I can just add a little extra in there, or I can move it to the left a little bit and tweak a little bit off. So I might fine-tune with this just a little bit. I might move it to the left or to the right, just till I think that looks just about right. Now I'm going to click in the center of this image with my mouse. See the little hand tool there? When I click, you'll see the before and the after. Let me do it again, before and after. So that's the small details. Now we can go to the medium details. And that will be more medium details, like maybe some of these shutter areas in here, some of these little larger areas in here. Let's move this detail slider. Okay, and you can see different parts of the image are getting a little sharper. So again, you just adjust it one way or the other. And also you can adjust these sliders to the left. You might want to smooth things out. It really depends on what kind of a look you're looking for. So don't be afraid to move these sliders. They're very important. Okay, so I'm going to say right around there. And then I'm going to take my medium details boost and move it to the right a little bit, move it to the left. Just get it to right where I think it looks good. All right. Then we're going to go to large details, and that's going to work with larger details of the image, like all this area under here and things like that. So it's going to add some sharpening there. So let's see that. And so you can see those sharper details. Now this one, you can go crazy here and make your picture look really ugly. So you got to be careful. And sometimes you'll even bump this one back a little bit just to kind of smooth out those large details. It depends, again, what look you're looking for. I might just bump it up a little bit and then take my large details boost, move it to the right a little bit, move it to the left. But look, moving it to the right, look at this nice little textures. This is one of the things I like this filter for, is textures, popping some textures. Now, don't forget you have masking in all Topaz filters. So you can, for instance, adjust this image and make the rest of the image look horrible, but you mainly look at this area and say, you know what, I don't like what's happening everywhere else, but I love this texture. So then you could bring this back into Photoshop and just mask that texture in. So remember that. That's a nice little pro tip for you. Okay, and that's basically how I use these filters. I never really accept them the way they are. Sometimes I do, but a lot of times I'm using masking and just masking certain parts of the image in. All right, so right around there. And of course, we have the exposure, contrast, and highlights here. So if I needed a little bit more exposure, I could bump up the exposure here. If I needed it, I could add a little bit of extra contrast to the image. I can adjust my highlights, bring them up or bring them back a little bit. So it's nice to have the tone control in there, and Topaz Studio 2 has the tone controls too. I don't believe they call it exposure. I think they call it midtones, and I think there's a shadows, highlights, and white and black point. All right, I'll pop us back into Topaz Studio 2 one more time so you can see those controls. All right, and then when you're satisfied with the image, you can just hit OK here. But don't worry about that so much because I'm just showing you how this works, okay? So you probably don't have this filter. All right, so now if I wanted to adjust the shadow details, I click on shadow, and then I can come here and adjust my shadow details, bring them up or down, depending. And you'll see a little bit of change is taking effect here, but it's only affecting the shadows. Okay, shadow areas. So I'm not seeing a whole lot happening here. Same with the medium. I'm not seeing a bunch, so I'm not going to mess with these. I'm going to go to highlights. And I like to go through all the different controls because you never know what it's going to do. So I might want to pull that highlight back a little bit. But in this case, I might just pull the highlights up a little bit and play with my boost. just to tweak it just to where I like it, maybe right about there. Do the medium details, and you can see the medium details are definitely affecting the image, depending what I want it to do. Or I may want it to do nothing. I may just double click this and get this back to the center. And then I could play with my large details. And here I might want to do this to bring out a little bit more texture in this area right here. Now let me click on the image, and you'll see the before and the after. The before and after. And if I'm happy with that, all I do is click OK. And that'll bring me right back into Photoshop. And now in Photoshop on layer 1 here, this is where I applied the Precision Detail 3 to, so I can click this and you can see the before and after. Now I also have an opacity slider in Photoshop, so I can take this opacity slider and I can pull it the whole way off and then just maybe start to bring it up a little bit and maybe not give it the full amount of the adjustment, but just some of the adjustment right there. And remember, I can add a layer mask here to this layer, and I can just maybe mask it into this area. But right now, I think the overall picture looks good. So let's see a before and an after again. All right. So let me just hide this setting here. Let me duplicate this background layer. It's Command-J on a Mac, Control-J on a PC. I always like to use shortcuts, and that duplicates my background layer. Let's go back into Topaz Studio 2 because I want to show you the tone controls. So let's go to Filter. Let's go back to Topaz Studio 2. And then we're going to click Add Filter. Let's go to Precision Detail. And remember, it's not working for me, so it's going to look funny. But I just came back in here just to show you. So you have a midtones control, so you can adjust the midtones brighter, up or down. You could darken them or lighten them, whichever you like. Okay. And then we have a shadows control. We can open our shadows up, or we can close our shadows down. Give ourselves a little bit more contrast, like somewhere around in there. And then, of course, we have a highlights. We can pull our highlights back, or we can open our highlights up, give us a little more highlight detail. Or not detail, but just give us a little more highlights in the image, or cut some of those highlights back. And lastly, we can adjust our black point. Move it to the right, makes the black point get lighter. Move it to the left, makes the black point get darker, depending where you like it. Double click black point, sets it back to the center. Same with the white point. You can make your white point lighter or darker. Move it to the right to make it lighter. Move it to the left to make it darker. Double click it to get it back to the center. And as I said, this filter is not working for me in Topaz Studio 2, so I'm just going to come up here and click Cancel. Anytime you want to get out of Topaz Studio 2, you decide you didn't want to make that adjustment, just click Cancel. That'll bring us right back into Photoshop, and there we are. So let's come up here to this original layer that I worked on in Topaz Detail 3. There's the before and there's the after. So you can see detail is really nice. And as I said earlier, detail is more of a sharpening filter. So think of it if you really want to sharpen things up and also pull some really nice textures out of images. It's really great for that as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. If you're not yet a subscriber with this channel, please do so and click that bell notification icon so you'll be informed of all the new training videos that I'm putting out. I really appreciate you and all your support that you do for me. And thanks again for joining me today. And I will see you right here on The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly next